Okay, so a while back I had heard this movie. It had like come out to like a TIFF film festival or some sort of European film festival. It was like shown once, and then after that, crickets. Uh, People were kind of like wondering, when is this movie coming out? And finally it came out, but every time I got a chance to see it, it either was at the wrong showtime or the person I was going to see it with didn't want to see it, or just reason after reason prevented me from seeing this. And then finally, the other night, I was able to finally see it. So long after it initially come out. Have a lot of movies that I didn't get a review until long after they came out, but finally I got to see Boy Kills World. And what intrigued me about this was, before this movie came on my radar, Bill Skarsgård never struck me as the type of guy who does like action movies or is a guy who could kick my ass. He always kind of pulled off these creepy characters, and like the most intimidating he ever was the it creature. So when I saw the photo of him like all jacked up, it was like this was a revenge story. I was like, okay, I'm kind of intrigued. Can this guy pull it off? And so now, after seeing Boy Kills World, I gotta say, this was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So let's get into it.
The day the Vanderkoys killed my family and left me deaf and mute. So I made a 3-step plan. Step 1, give myself an inner voice. I took the last one I remembered from this video game. Player 1 wins. Step 2, get stronger. A lot stronger. And step 3, join a team.
Welcome to the Resistance.
Yeah, go team.
Okay, so the rough general premise of this is like it's after the Smash, post-apocalypse, kind of a Hunger Games situation where there's this like crime family called the Vanderkamps or something like that, and they control this like city that is like overgrown with like jungle forests, but the city's still active. It was kind of interesting seeing like this city. It looks like it long has since been abandoned by humans and overtaken by nature in some of the wide shots, but humans still work in it. So, I don't know. They never explain like what the post-apocalypse reason is. It's just boom, you're in this post-apocalyptic world. There's this family called the Vanderkamps, I believe they're called, and basically once a year they have something called a calling, which basically they kill off all their enemies to show everyone, don't mess with us and let us rule. And the movie follows this character called Boy, who's deaf and mute, and his family was killed by the Vanderkamps when he was a little kid, and he's been training for years so that he can get his revenge against his family. Kind of a simple, straightforward premise, and this movie definitely uses 1990 video games as like its blueprint, because like this movie does feel like a 90s video game, especially if you're talking about like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, or one of those like side-scrolling ones where at the end of each level you have a boss, and each subsequent level is harder and harder with a harder boss. This movie feels exactly like that. I mean, it's like every half hour there's like a new boss that's harder than the last one that our main character has to deal with. And so I mean, like that was kind of fun for me, since I'm into video games, and like I totally saw what they were shooting with this. And like this movie is aimed as a action comedy, especially with the main character. The main character, because he's been deaf for most of his life, he forgot how he originally sounded, and he decided to create his like internal monologue based off the announcer for this game that he loved playing with his sister, and it sounds like this. And it's kind of humorous seeing like that voice, the voice of Archer from the TV series Archer, overlapped with Bill Skarsgård's like facial expressions. I mean, you hear the guy speak, and he doesn't sound anything like that, so it's kind of humorous seeing that voiceover with him. And they do a good job like with having him doing his facial expressions with this like deep bassing voiceover, and it leads to some really funny moments in the film. I've heard some people say that some of the humor in this movie doesn't work and it's dumb. I felt that most of the humor worked for me, but then again, I do have like an acquired taste. I will acknowledge that I'm one of the few people that actually will laugh at The Big Bang Theory, and everyone loves shitting on The Big Bang Theory now these days. So yeah, obviously I have a unique sense of humor. I thought a lot of the moments in this movie were pretty freaking hilarious, especially with Bill Skarsgård interacting with other people in his head. Like, no one in this movie realizes that he's deaf. And so a lot of people, they just assume that he's a strong silent type. And it's like, yeah, no, the guy can't hear you and he can't speak. There are a few inconsistencies though. Like, there's a few times there's a little noise and you see him go like, what was that? And like, what am I hearing? And it's like, I thought he was deaf, and yet the movie's a little inconsistent in that point. Now, something that was interesting is, no spoilers, but like, there were a couple of twists and turns in this movie, and like, one of them I saw coming from like 427,000 miles away. It was like, once this character was introduced, it's like, yeah, that person's that. And it was like, when it was revealed, it was like, yeah, I called it. I knew it. I knew it. You know, right from the beginning. However, there was another twist that I didn't see coming, and it's like, oh, that was unexpected. So it's kind of like a 50-50 here on some of like the surprises they try doing. Some of them work, some of them don't work. And with the ones that did work, I was actually genuinely surprised, and I enjoyed that. Now, when it comes to like the fight scenes and the fight choreography, man, are some of them really impressive. I always appreciate it when a movie takes their time to actually put the actors through proper fight choreography training so that it looks like they know how to fight. So many movies, you see this like flash cuts in between every single hit and move they do to hide that the actor cannot fight to save their life. And in this movie, I did not feel like they did that. It felt like Bill Skarsgård could actually kick my ass. It felt like all the other characters in this movie could actually kick a person's ass if they want to, and I appreciated that. And this gets to kind of the one aspect movie I did not like, and that was the inconsistent camera work. So in this movie, there are some truly amazing scenes of camera work, some amazing like pathway layouts that they do, some amazing angles, and it's like, wow, that is impressive. And then on the other hand, they have some really shitty camera work that just completely dumbfounded me. Like, case in point, in some of the fight scenes, some of the angles are literally of the character and their shoulder like up close like this, and they're fighting someone and you can't see the entire fight. It makes no sense. And then in other scenes, the camera angles and work is outstanding. And it was very inconsistent. I was hoping that, like, I would have preferred they just kind of kept it a little more consistent. But, like, sometimes they were kind of a little bit too fast in some of the intense scenes. And it's just like, guys, I mean, just, what's going on? Like, at moments, you're amazing. It's some of the best camera work I've ever seen in a movie ever. And then other times it feels like an amateur is filming this movie. And so I'd say about like 60% of the movie was the impressive professional camera work, and then like 40% of the movie was this amateur that filled in whenever the guy had to go to the bathroom. And so, you know. And then another thing I really liked about this movie was that, unlike so many movies these days, this was a self-contained story. By the time you get to the credits rolling, that's it. The story's over. There's no tease for a sequel. There's no like, oh, this villain got away. Like everything is wrapped up by the time you get to the end of this movie, and I really appreciate that. You don't see that very often these days because everyone's trying to start off a franchise. And then real quick, if you do watch this, watch till after the credits. There's this fun little post-credit scene that I think you'll enjoy. So overall, in the end, I was genuinely surprised by Boy Kills World. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was really funny. Some of the fights were truly spectacular. And it had this like great 1990s video game vibe to it in terms of like action video games. And like, yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I'll probably get it when it comes out on 4K. And if you want to see a fun action film, I would say try and go see this in a theater before they take it out. I'm pretty sure this is going to be out by the time I get this video on. But, you know, you never know. There might be like a second run theater that you might see this in. Definitely go check it out. It's a fun movie. I had a blast with this. And there wasn't too many issues I had with this movie outside of some really dodgy camera work at infrequent times to the impressive camera work that happens throughout most of the movie. So, anyway, that's been my review of Boy Kills World. My name's Christopher Connell with 11 Hour Reviews, and that will be all for today.